Yeah, that's going on Facebook. Hello, everyone out there. This is Dr. Roger Paul. And tonight we're going to continue our study with paper 39 of the Urantia book. We're in section 5, paragraph 14. That's on page 438 of the original book. And this is a continuation of last week's discussion on this section. And I probably ought to mention, we were talking about how mortal beings and celestial beings both are inserted into on top of the seraphim. That's what we were talking about at the time. And this is the explanation of it. And these pictures are transport seraphim with and without a sleeping mortal. And this is a picture of one of them with the friction shields open. And then that's a picture of a seraphim with someone inside. All right. And I think I'm going to start out reading myself tonight because there's a couple offshoots here I want to make about this paragraph so that y'all understand it. Okay, so we're talking about the seraphim getting ready to transport a being or mortal, right? And we're not talking about us, right? We're talking about mortals from other planets or student visitors or Morontia individuals that are coming to visit, okay, or going from planet to planet. So when we leave the planet, we don't leave this way, do we? We all know that. And I want to make sure that that's clear right from the start. But this explains how we'll be traveling when we get to be Morontia beings ourselves. All right, so, and now under the influence of the transformers and transmitters, which we're going to talk about in just a second, a strange metamorphosis begins as the seraphim is made ready to swing into the energy currents of the universe circuits. What are the energy currents of the universe circuits? If you don't understand that, this all seems like a bunch of gobbledygook. So we're going to hit this link here, see how it turns red as I roll across it. So we're going to go out here to circuits and see what it says about circuits. All right. All these circuits, number one, lead back to God on paradise, the Trinity, right? And the angels are sustained by direct intake of spirit of energy from these spirit circuits. So for the angels to get their nutrition to go on, in other words, they don't eat or drink, they get nutrition from these spirit circuits. Okay, and they're called energy circuits. An example of one of these would be the gravity circuit, right? Also, there's Havona circuits, which are the rings around paradise. And then we have the local universe circuits, and we know those are controlled by whom? The local universe mother spirit, right? Okay, so this is all part of the circuits. And it says here that there's a reference here about how it's not always possible to distinguish between the local universe circuits and the super universe circuits or the deity circuits. Okay, it's hard to tell them tell the difference, but because they all radiate from the same presence, right? And these presences are the circuits of paradise, and they're derived from the personality presence of the deities themselves. Whom they talk about that? Let's talk about God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit, right? All right. And we have several different types of circuits. We have the matter circuit, which is the gravity circuit. We have the mind circuit, which is the gravity mind circuit of the infinite spirit, right? And then we have the personality spirit, which is the direct circuit of the universal Father. No other beings have personality circuits with the exception of the infinite circuit and the personality circuit of the infinite spirit to all the angelic personnel. Okay, so different types of circuit. And also, it says here that reflectivity, when beings can see other beings on other planets, these are the reflectivity circuit is independent of all other sub-absolute circuits. Okay, it seems automatic to intelligent supervision, and there's 7 circuits. There's 7 different circuits of the super universe. So we have a better idea what circuits are now, right? So if we go back to this paragraph, it says here that a strange metamorphosis begins as the seraphim is made ready to swing into the energy circuits of the universe energy currents of the universe circuits. You see that? So now we know what the circuits are, right? To outward appearance, the seraphim grows pointed at both extremities, and so becomes so enshrouded in a queer light of amber hue that very soon it is impossible to distinguish the insane and seraphimed personality. When all is in readiness for departure, the chief of the transport. Now, let me go down here and show you who this is. This is the chief of the transport right down here in this picture, okay? The chief of the transport, let me find it again here. I lost my place. And I didn't go up quite far enough. Hang on.
There you go.
There we go. When all is in readiness for departure, the chief of the transport makes the proper inspection of the carriage of life. So they consider the seraphim a carriage of life. All right. Carries out the routine test to ascertain whether or not the angel is properly encircuited, and then announce that the traveler is properly enseraphimed, that the energies are adjusted, that the angel is insulated, and that everything is in readiness for the departure flash. Why do you think this is so important? Because we're talking about a seraphim that moves through time and space at such a speed that if the beings inside were not enseraphimed, what would happen? They'd burn out.
Disintegrate.
Yeah, right. They'd disintegrate, right? So that's why this is so important. All right. The mechanical controllers. We'll see this down in this picture. Let me see if I can get down here so you see part of this picture. The mechanical controllers, 2 of them, and it says it takes 10 mechanical controllers. All right. 2 mechanical controllers take their positions. By this time, the transport seraphim has become almost transparent, vibrating torpedo-shaped outline of glistening luminosity. Now, the transport dispatcher of the realm summons the auxiliary batteries of the living energy transmitters, usually 1,000 in number. As he announces the destination of the transport, he reaches out, touches the near point of the seraphic carriage, which shoots forward with lightning-like speed, leaving a trail of celestial luminosity as far as the planetary atmospheric investment extends. In less than 10 minutes, the marvelous spectacle will be lost to reinforce seraphic vision even. Yeah, even reinforced seraphic vision. So what are they talking about here? These living energy transmitters. Do y'all remember anything about them when we studied them before? Probably not. It's been so long, right? So let's go out here and look at the living energy transmitters. These are part of the master physical controller and universe power directors. There's a 1,000 enable seraphic departures. So it takes 1,000 of these energy transporters to be there for one seraphim to take off. Okay, that's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
They cannot initiate communication. Ruling, sustaining bands marooned in the garden, all right, in Dalmatia, basically. Remember when Van sent a message about the rebellion of Caligastia, and it got marooned in a circuit? It was one of these that received that message and couldn't forward it. Why? Because they cannot initiate communication on their own. Okay, that's why this is important. So this is the same type of being. They're indispensable for mortals on non-breathing planets, and they are living superconductors. They induce energy flows in desired direction, augment feeble energies. They provide energy lines of communication and render distant scenes visible and audible. So without these transmitters, we couldn't have what? Reflectivity. Travel. Yeah, or travel. That's right. So they're pretty important. So that's who these energy transmitters are. Okay, so if we look down at this picture, it helps make a little more sense now. So it takes 2 of these mechanical controllers at least for a transport. There's 10 mechanical controllers assigned to the planet itself. Okay, so it takes at least 2 of them to initiate a transport, but it takes 1,000 energy transmitters for this seraphim to take off. All right, and this is a picture of a transport seraphim as it's ready for inspection. Somebody has to inspect it to make sure everything's closed and everything's ready to go. And then what happens? They just touch the carriage, the energy transfer, one of the transformers touch the carriage, and it's gone just that fast, right? So that's how they leave the planet. All right. Okay, let's go to the first paragraph. And Diane, would you take the first paragraph for me, dear?
While planetary space reports are received at noon at the meridian of the designated spiritual headquarters, the transporters are dispatched from this same place at midnight. That is the most favorable time for departure and is the standard hour when not otherwise specified.
So the seraphim all take off at about midnight at the spiritual pole of the planet. And where is that? We don't know for sure, right?
And it makes you wonder, there's 24 midnights on Earth every day.
That's right. Every day. That's right. There is.
Which one they pick?
Yeah. I mean, is it the Californian? Is it Eastern time? What is it? We don't know.
If it was California, everything would go west.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's go on to the next one, the recorder. So anybody have any questions about how the seraphim work for transport? Are we clear as mud?
It's amazing what it is.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go on to the recorders. We've heard, you hear every one of these things multiple times through this paper, right? The recorders. Jane, would you take that one, please?
6, the recorders. These are the custodians of the major affairs of the planet as it functions as a part of the system and as it is related to and concerned in the universe government. They function in recording of planetary affairs, but are not concerned with matters of individual life and existence.
So these recorders has to do with the government and the planets of the universe, not for individual recording, right? Who does the individual recording? Your seraphim, right? Your guardian angels, right? And the cherubim help in that also. They can take up that function if both of them are busy, right? Okay, now I want to get something real clear before we move off the transport seraphim too. I wanted to mention, angels come and go to the planet constantly. This is not talking about the movement of all angels that come to the planet and leave the planet, is it? This is only transport seraphim, okay, that work like this. The regular angels are able to negotiate space on their own. So any other angel that's assigned to the planet can come to the planet, leave the planet just about any time it chooses to. All right, but they have to fall within the energy circuits to do that, right? So they don't explain that process to us, only the one for the transports, right? So I did want to make it clear these angels can come and go as they choose, and especially the archangels, right? All right.
Roger?
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, there's a guy named Jacob, and his eyes were spiritual eyes, were open so he could see angels coming and going.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Jacob's ladder.
Yeah, Jacob's ladder, right? Yeah, that's where that whole thing about that came from, right? So he could actually see them and coming and going. All right. The reserves. Now, like the other sections, each one of them had reserves, right? So let's go to the next reserve. Rodney, would you take the reserves, number 7?
Yes. The Satania Reserve Corps of the planetary seraphim is maintained on Jerusalem in close association with the reserves of the material suns. These abundant reserves repletely provide for every phase of the manifold activities of this seraphic order. These angels are also the personal message bearers of the local systems. They serve transition mortals, angels, and the material sons, as well as others domiciled on the system headquarters. While Urantia is, at present, outside the spiritual circuits of Satania and Norlacia, you are otherwise in intimate touch with interplanetary affairs. For these messengers from Jerusalem frequently come to this world as to all the other spheres of the system.
So these reserve orders stay busy taking messages out and that sort of thing, but they also stay busy with mortals, new arrivals like us, and other Morontia beings, angels and material sons that's domiciled on the system world headquarters and helps us out in every way you could possibly imagine, probably. All right. Transition ministers. Now, I'm going to tell you about the transition ministers, but you're going to find out here, unlike the other sections in this book, it tells us what the 7 orders are, but it doesn't break it down like it does in the other sections. The reason being is the transition ministers start their work on when we get to be Morontia beings, right? And that's in our future. They're not going to reveal everything that's going to happen to us as Morontia beings into the future, right? So that's where they only tell us a little bit about these. So let's see, Gary left. Lech, would you take this paragraph in the 7 orders here? Let me bring it up a little bit for you.
Yeah, sure. As their name might suggest, seraphim of transitional ministries serve wherever they can contribute to creature transition from the material to the spiritual estate. These angels serve from the inhabited worlds to the system capitals, but those in Satania at present direct their greatest efforts towards the education of the surviving mortals on the 7 mansion worlds. This ministry is diversified in accordance with the following 7 orders of assignment. Number 1, seraphic angels. Number 2, racial interpreters. Number 3, mind planners. Number 4, Morontia counselors. 5, technicians. 6, recorders, teachers. And 7, ministering reserves.
So all these orders of angels will help us out when we become Morontia beings. So that's why they don't tell us a whole lot about them. There is one other thing I wanted to mention in this previous paragraph I forgot to say anything about, and that is the fact that the reserve order of angels help us stay in touch with Satania and Norlacia, because we're still outside the circuit because of the rebellion, right? Okay, I wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on that. So these angels basically help us out in the Morontia state, preparing us for our new life on the system capital and going on to spiritual beings. And that's what this picture is here. These are the transmission worlds that help us go from mansion worlds to the system capital. And I'll read that one paragraph. More about these seraphic ministers to transition ascenders you will learn in connection with the narrative dealing with the mansion worlds and the Morontia life. So they saved that for that section. All right. The next section is really long. The seraphim of the future. You can see it's 2 whole paragraphs. So Gary, would you take that first paragraph? Now don't stumble getting through one paragraph now, because
I
this
will
is a long
sacrifice and I'll read the whole thing.
Okay, that's great.
This is my sacrifice.
This is your section. That's right.
The seraphim of the future. These angels do not minister extensively except in older realms and on the more advanced planets of Nebadon. Large numbers of them are held in reserve on these seraphic worlds near Seraphington, where they are engaged in pursuits relevant to the sometime dawning of the age of light and life in Nebadon. These seraphims do function in connection with the ascendant mortal careers, but minister almost exclusively to those mortals who survive by some one of the modified orders of ascension. Inasmuch as these angels are not directly concerned with either Urantia or Urantians, it is deemed best to withhold the description of their fascinating activities.
Okay, so we're called Urantians. How about that?
Urantians.
Yeah. Hi, Tim. Nice to see you.
Oh, hey, it's so great to be here, guys. I'm running late. How's everybody
right.
doing?
Doing
Yeah.
I'm
great.
so glad to be here.
All right.
I'm using
Sarah,
my iPad.
Oh,
Hey,
are you?
Diane. Yeah, can
a
you
new,
believe it?
A new iPad or an older one?
Oh, just the one I usually have, but it's just incredible. It's so much
picture.
faster than the laptop.
It's
The
Oh,
clear.
laptop
your
is
pic-
so old and out of date.
Yeah, your picture's great. Me and Diane been talking about getting some Apple MacBooks. So that may happen in the future sometime.
Wonderful
So,
idea.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
investment.
Tim,
Okay,
you
so-
missed me. You missed it all. I read a whole section.
Wonderful, Gary. Gary, we're going to put
You-
your face on the wall now. You've earned that.
Huh?
Along
Wanted
with the plaque.
FBI.
That's right. Okay, Seraphim of the future. These guys basically take care of planets once they reach life and life, or modified planets that are not air breathing and that sort of thing, or planets that are of a different order. So let me give you an example of something like that. When this planet reaches light and life, then the Seraphim of the future would come to help us out during that transition period into light and life. But they may also help some kind of beings like, let's say, like the gray aliens we see or something, because they may be a modified order of being compared to us. You see what I'm saying? So they take care of orders of existence that are not exactly like us, right? All right, so let's go on to the seraphic destiny. What happens to seraphim in the future? Here we go. Tim, would you like to take that first paragraph?
Sure. Seraphim, is that where we're at?
Yeah, seraphim are the origin.
Okay,
Origin
okay.
of the, yeah.
Seraphim are the origin in the local universes, and in these very realms of their nativity, some achieve service destiny with the help and counsel of the senior archangels. Some seraphim may be elevated to the exalted duties of the bright morning stars, while
Brilliant
others
evening
attain
stars.
brilliant
the
evening stars.
Evening stars, right.
While others attain the status and service of the unrevealed coordinates of the evening stars, still other adventures in local universe destiny may be attempted, but Seraphington ever remains the eternal goal of all angels. Seraphington is the angelic threshold of paradise in deity attainment, the transition sphere from the ministry of time to the exalted service of eternity.
So all the seraphims' goal is to at least make Seraphington, which prepares them to go on to paradise for permanent service, right? All right. Let me read that first paragraph. Seraphim may attain paradise in scores, hundreds of ways, but the most important, as elaborated in these narratives, are the following. Number one, dear, would you take number one for us, please?
To gain admission to the paradise seraphic abode in a personal capacity by achieving perfection of specialized service as a celestial artisan, a technical advisor, or a celestial recorder. To become a paradise companion and having thus attained the center of all things, perhaps then to become an eternal minister and advisor to the seraphic orders and others.
Okay, so their goal is all about service. So this is some of the ways they can get to become eligible to go on to Seraphington. But what's the number way for them to get ready to go to Seraphington?
The Ascension career?
Being guardian angels for us. That's the number one way of getting to Seraphington, right? Because they can start at the bottom and work their way all the way to the top. All right. Let's go on.
So, hey,
to the
Roger.
next one. Yeah.
Do they kind of participate in the Ascension career? It's not like mortals, right? But it's pretty
Yes,
much
they do.
Okay.
No, they do participate in this Ascension career by being guardians of destiny to us. So by starting there, they can go through the Ascension process with us. And when they get summoned to Seraphington, then they can go on to Havana and go through the whole process, sometimes with us, sometimes without us, but they become eligible to become a part of the permanent core of Seraphim. So that's their goal, right?
That's a tremendous amount of time to go through just with an individual.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they get
Honor.
sick of us,
Oh,
actually.
it's an honor, really.
Probably.
Here he goes again. You know?
Roger.
All right. Yeah.
Whereas angels are, their career is servicing.
Right.
This is exactly what Jesus taught us.
Yes.
For mortals to be
Service. Right.
as well.
Service oriented. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they are, you know, but you know, that's why they say service, 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 decisions, 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 right? Because that's the most important thing. They start out knowing that their goal is to service, right? We have to learn that as mortals so that when we get to the mansion world, we can start our process of service, service, and more service, right? So Jesus came to teach us we can start that here by servicing each other, right? Okay, Jane, would you take the next one, please, dear?
Okay. 3, to be summoned to Seraphington. Under two,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
The other,
Indeed. My
Yeah.
eyes are watering. To be summoned to Seraphington. Under certain conditions, seraphim are commanded on high. In other circumstances, angels sometimes achieve paradise in a much shorter time than mortals. But no matter how fitted any seraphic pair may be, they cannot initiate departure for Seraphington or elsewhere. None but successful destiny guardians can be sure of proceeding to paradise by a progressive path of evolutionary ascent. All others must patiently await the arrival of the paradise messengers of the tertiary seraphim, who come with the summons commanding them to appear on high.
So the only sure way of them to get summons to Seraphington is what? As a guardian of destiny. And it takes longer, but they have a sure pathway to get there, right? So that's why they all want to be guardians of destiny. And here's a picture of a seraphim being summoned, and the summon is brought by a tertiary seraphim who is what? A super universe angel or a Havana angel, one of the two. All right. So they're summoned, or you consider them a paradise angel, Seraphington. All right. Let's see. Rodney, would you take the next one?
yes, 4.
No, 3.
inside joke.
Read my fingers.
To attain paradise by the evolutionary mortal technique. The supreme choice of seraphim in the career of time is the post of guardian angel in order that they may attain the career of finality and be qualified for assignment to the eternal spheres of seraphic service. Such personal guides of the children of time are called guardians of destiny, signifying that they guard mortal creatures in the path of divine destiny, and that in so doing, they are determining their own high destiny.
So by guarding us and getting us on the right pathway all the way there, they provide the pathway for themselves. And remember, they're always in pairs, or there's always two of them, right? So they go in pairs all the way through this process. All right. So when you have a guardian of destiny, he goes with you all the way through the mansion worlds and can go with you all the way up, right? Yeah.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah, Tim.
When you say the word summoned, is that sort of like saying being called?
Being called. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, they call it a summoning. I guess it works a lot like if you're summoned to court or something, you know. And yeah, yeah.
Oh, I like this slide you have. That is beautiful.
And then nice slide.
Yeah, that's
All right,
very nice.
So here they are starting us out on Mansion World 1 to Mansion World 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and eventually to Jerusalem, the system capital, right? So that's why they want to make sure they're assigned, so there are guardians for us to get there too, right? Okay. Gary, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Guardians of Destiny are drawn from the ranks of the more experienced angelic personalities of an order of seraphim who have
all orders of seraphim.
all orders of seraphim.
So that means any of these angels that we studied all the way through this paper can all be qualified to become guardians of destiny, right? That's why they say it that way. Okay.
Okay, who have qualified for this service. All surviving mortals of adjuster function destiny have
Fusion
temporary
destiny.
guardians.
Sorry.
Huh?
Adjuster fusion destiny.
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, all surviving mortals of adjuster fusion destiny have temporary guardians assigned, but these associates may become permanently attached when mortal survivors attain the requisite intellectual and spiritual development. Before mortal ascenders have the mansion world, before mortal ascenders leave the mansion worlds, they all have permanent seraphic associates. This group of ministering spirits is discussed in connection with the Urantia narrative.
Okay, so before you get all the way through all 7 of the mansion worlds, you will be permanently assigned a pair of guardians of destiny, right? So if you are lone guardians of destiny to get to a certain point, to get to a certain mansion world, and these guardians have been called on something else, then they will be replaced with other guardians of destiny, and they will become your permanent ones. Okay, so normally they will go all the way through with you, but if they are summoned for a different job or they're needed in a different place, then they are replaced with other guardians of destiny. All right.
I had
So
a
we
question,
always
Roger.
have one. Yeah, Tim.
Do we have any guardians of destiny angels with us right now, watching over us?
Everybody on this meeting tonight has at least 2 guardians of destiny.
And
You know
but
how
I thought we
you
had.
know how I know that?
How's that, Roger?
Because everybody in this meeting, and probably most of the people that are listening, have made the ultimate choice to follow the will of God. When you make that ultimate choice to follow the will of God in your life, you automatically get assigned a permanent guardian to a pair of guardians of destiny plus two cherubim, a cherubim and a cenobim, right?
So
So
when
I can
so the pair,
I can tell you all of us here have been assigned 2 guardians of destiny. So that means right now we have, what we got here, 6, 7, we have 14 angels listening to us right now.
oh wow.
Actually,
So it would be
28.
28, if you consider the cherubim.
so
Right?
you could say that the paragraph we just read above, you kind of get an upgrade. It's a seraphim instead of a cenobim or omniphim.
No, you don't. You may keep the same pair, but
Okay.
if that pair, when you get to the mansion worlds, if for some reason that pair of seraphim are called for a different specific duty, which sometimes happens. Okay, if Seraphington calls them to Seraphington, they consider that they have done something special, and so they kick them up higher. Okay, but if that doesn't happen, you'll keep the same seraphim. Okay, so which most people normally do, keeps the same seraphim. So these seraphim you've had go through this experience with you will go all the way through. Now, interesting point about that too, Tim, is this: if you get a different pair of seraphim, they have to get completely up to snuff with all your history and everything that's ever happened to you, so that they're just like the seraphim that's been called away.
Wow.
Okay,
It is
so
really
you leave,
beautiful. Yeah.
you lose nothing really. You just get new seraphim.
Well, I like how you explain that. Thank you. That's just beautiful. Thanks.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's see. Lech, I believe you're up next again. You're muted, Lech. There you go.
Many, but not all, of those seraphim.
No, it's the one right
assigned
above that.
destiny.
It's the one right above that. It
Yeah.
is not possible,
Sorry,
right?
yeah. It is not possible for angels to attain God from the human level of origin, for they are created a little higher than you. But it has been wisely arranged that while they cannot possibly start up from the very bottom, the spiritual lowlands of mortal existence, they may go down to those who do start from the bottom and pilot such creatures step by step, world by world, to the portals of Havona. When mortal ascenders leave Uversa to begin the circles of Havona, these guardians of attachments, subsequent to the life in the flesh, will bid their pilgrim associates a temporary farewell while they journey to Seraphington, the angelic destination of the grand universe. Here will these guardians attempt and undoubtedly achieve the 7 circles of seraphic light.
So when you graduate from Uversa and start from Havona, your guardian angels are released and called to Seraphington so that they can go through the 7 circles of seraphic light. And while they're doing the 7 circles of seraphic light, we're doing what? We're going through the billion worlds of Havona. And at that part, we are assigned companions to go through the billion worlds of Havona with us. Okay, so we're never alone. Yeah, Jane.
At the time, we would be fused or infused with the thought adjuster.
That's right. By that time, normally after the 5th, somewhere between the 5th and the 6th mansion worlds, everyone has fused with their adjusters. Yeah, normally.
Could it be the 3rd mansion world?
It could be the 3rd mansion world. It may be any of them up to that. You could fuse in this life, but they do have cases where they talk about where beings have actually gone all the way to the system capital without fusing. And
Really?
yeah, the Calagasta 100 are examples of those type of beings. Okay, the Caligastia 100 had not fused with their adjusters, or they would not be available to go on the mission to Urantia, because they had to leave their adjusters back behind on the system capital. Remember that? So the Caligastia 100, when they came to the planet, did not have adjusters any longer. What do you think that had something to do with why so many of them failed? Maybe. Yeah, Gary.
Doesn't, if they left their adjusters behind,
Yeah,
they were capable of rebellion because the adjuster is God, and if you fuse with it, you would be rebelling against yourself.
that's right. So as long as that's why they have no case ever of any fused mortal rebelling against God. Never. Doesn't happen. Okay, because when you get to the point where you fuse with God, you become part of God the Father innately. And so as part of God the Father, the circuit of the Father, you would never rebel against yourself, right? So that's the goal, is fusion. That's the most important thing we do, is the fuse with the adjuster.
But why would they
Right.
fail fusion? Because they're in rebellion? Or perhaps not enough maturity or that level of understanding or development yet?
No, I'll tell you what happens, Tim, when these beings came from the capital without adjusters, they no longer had that voice of God within them leading them the way.
Mhm.
Okay. They only had the influence of what? The Holy Spirit. That was it. Okay. They had no influence of God the Father any longer. So when temptation came along, even though they had all this experience of all 7 of the mansion worlds, and they made it to the system capital, they still let temptation come into their lives and rebellion set in.
So you could say sin is what's set in, disloyalty to deity or rebellion.
Right.
Jeez.
Error, right? Sin or error, whatever you want to call it. Right. So
Yeah.
40 of the 100 remained true. And when Adam and Eve came, they were released to go back to what? To Jerusalem. I don't remember if it was right before Adam and Eve came or if it was before that. I'm not sure. I'm foggy on that. Letch, do you remember that off the top of your head?
Jerusalem.
No?
Jerusalem.
No, when the Calabas, when they came to get the after when they came and justified Van, it seems to me they took back some of the
Their
Caligastia
children?
100. Yeah, the Caligastia 100. Maybe not though. It may have been when Adam and Eve came. I can't remember off the
I
top
don't
of my head.
remember.
Yeah. But anyway, the fact is, those Caligastia 100, when they came back to the planet, they no longer had their thought adjusters. So the ones that remained true were taken back to Jerusalem, where they reunited with their thought adjusters, the 40. The 60 that rebelled did not. They were not taken back. Okay, so they lived out their the rest of the normal life they had, which is many, many years, because they were of a different type of being than a normal human. So they lived 900, 1,000 years, but then they eventually died. And it was those 60 that mated with the men and women of the planet. And that's where the Nephilim came from, right? The giants, the Nephilim.
Okay.
Nephilim. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're dirty old men.
they were dirty old men, dirty old women, because there was half women, half men.
So it's
Okay.
fair to say that our
So they,
our
when it
material.
says when it says they mated with the sons and daughters of humans, that's exactly what they did. The men mated with the women, and the women mated with the barbarians that were on the planet. They created a whole new line of beings, which was the Nephilim, which we know in history, some of them turned out to be good, some of them turned out to be bad, right? But that's where the whole planet was full of giants at one time from the Nephilim. And that's
Well,
why they eventually all died out. You know, they had more children and their children became more normal. But in the, what is it? The plates of, I can't think. All the records has records of them, especially in Egypt and stuff. These are the beings they saw. You see where they have wings and hawks' heads and all this other stuff. That's part of the Nephilim. Okay, that's from the legends of the Nephilim. And why can't I think of the name of it? All the scrolls, the only written text of that time was from the memories of these beings. Okay,
The Dead Sea Scrolls?
not the Dead Sea Scrolls. Somebody can help me with this.
Hammurabi Scroll.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Is it the
it's
Egyptian Book of the Dead?
No, it's the
The Dead Sea Scrolls were written by the Essenes.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a much
it-
later time.
that's a later time. It was the
Much
first
later.
written text.
Yeah.
Was it by the
was
Greeks?
No, it was the first written text. It was the
The Egyptian,
Mes-
it had to be,
no,
no?
yeah, it was before that. It was before the Mesopotamians. That's where the Mesopotamians come
Yeah.
from.
I know what you're trying to think of.
Sanskrit?
The
Is it Sanskrit?
No,
No.
no.
No, it's
Sanskrit is more
No.
Melchizedek time. And this
Yeah.
is long before
this is long
Melchizedek.
before that. Yeah,
Long before, okay.
Yeah,
Melchizedek.
I know what you're trying to get
Huh?
at, but
It was during the time of Babylon and all that. Yeah,
before the
Hmm.
Egyptian.
Persian maybe?
before the Egyptians. It's what, if you go to Ancient Aliens, they talk about them every week, and I can't think of the name of them. They think that they're the ones that gave us this advanced knowledge, and it was.
I think it's something like Assyrian.
Babylonians.
I
Assyrian.
know what you're referring to.
It's
I-
wrong
the,
pronunciation.
I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Starts with an A.
Huh?
I think every one of us here knows what you're referring to.
Yeah,
Anunnaki.
it's the ones that everything is written in stone. You can see them in museums still. They got a name for the script.
Is that the Anunnakin that you're talking about?
No. I'll think of it. If I remember it, I'll tell y'all next time we come together. Because my brain's just out the window tonight. You
Could
know,
it be somewhere in the papers from 80 to maybe 89 or somewhere in that
It's-
section?
yeah, it's in the papers. I just can't think of it right off the top of my head. Believe it or not, I have all this garbage in my head, and it's hard to recall everything all the time. I'm getting old. Brain doesn't work like it used to. Even though I take these pills for it, it still doesn't work like it used to. Okay, so let's keep going. We can get a few more paragraphs here. Okay, so we're talked about the 7 circles of life. Now, who's up next? I believe Rodney. Did you read yet?
I don't know if I read lately.
Yeah, read again. Therefore, many but not all.
Many but not all of these seraphim assigned as destiny guardians during material life accompany their mortal associates through the Havana circles, and certain other seraphim pass through the circuits of the central universe in a way that is wholly different from the mortal ascent. But irrespective of the route of ascent, all evolutionary seraphim traverse Seraphington, and the majority pass through this experience instead of the Havana circuits.
There you go. So they go to Seraphington mostly, but in place of the Havana circuits, which we go to, right? All right. We lost Gary again. Letch, would you take the next one?
Seraphington is the destiny sphere for angels, and their attainment of this world is quite different from the experiences of the mortal pilgrims on Ascendington. Angels are not absolutely sure of their eternal future until they have attained Seraphington. No angel attaining Seraphington has ever been known to go astray. Sin will never find response in the heart of a seraphim of completion.
So they never sin, do they? Seraphim of completion, right? And the Ascendington they're talking about is where we go. You know, that's the direction we're going through. All right. Tim, would you take the next one, please?
The graduates of Seraphington are variously assigned Destiny Guardians of Havona's Circle experience, usually enter the mortal finaliter core. Other guardians, having passed their Havona separation test, frequently rejoin their mortal associates on Paradise, and some become the everlasting associates of the mortal finaliters, while others enter the various non-mortal finaliter core, and many other mustered into the core of seraphic completion. What do they mean by Havona Circle? Is that sort of like an achievement award, or?
That's achievement. That's right. That's where
Okay.
everyone eventually ends up and achieves either becoming a finaliter or the seraphic core completion. What do I do here? There we go. All right. Let's see how much left we got. We got 3 more paragraphs. We can make it through this tonight. Okay, the core of seraphic completion. Diane, would you take the next one, please?
After attainment of the Father of Spirits and admission to the seraphic service of completion, angels are sometimes assigned to the ministry of worlds settled in light and life. They gain attachment to the high trinitized beings of the universes and to the exalted services of Paradise and Havona. These seraphim of the local universes have experientially compensated the differential and divinity potential, formally setting them apart from the ministering spirits of the central and super universes. Angels of the seraphic core of completion serve as associates of the super universe Seraphington and as assistants to the high Paradise Havona orders of Seraphim. For such angels, the career of time is finished. Henceforth and forever, they are the servants of God, the consorts of divine personalities, and the peers of the Paradise finaliters.
You're muted, Roger.
And the Seraphim are super universe angel, and the Seraphim are paradise angels, right? So they end up being associates with them and help them out, right? Anunnaki was one thing I was trying to think of, and then I can't think of the actual writings. Okay. Let's see here. Jane, would you take the next one?
Large numbers of the completion seraphim return to their native universes, there to complement the ministry of divine endowment by the ministry of experiential perfection. Nebadon is, comparatively speaking, one of the younger universes and therefore does not have so many of these returned Seraphington graduates as would be found in an older realm. Nonetheless, a local universe is adequately supplied with the completion of seraphim, for it is significant that the evolutionary realms disclose increasing need for their services as they near the status of light and life. Completion seraphim now serve more extensively with the supreme orders of seraphim, but some serve with each other. Some serve with each of the other angelic orders. Even your world enjoys the extensive ministry of 12 specialized groups of the seraphic core of completion. These master seraphim of planetary supervision accompany each newly commissioned planetary prince to the inhabited worlds.
Okay, so a new planetary prince would always have a group of these seraphim with them, right? So there'd be 12 each, so that'd be 24, right? Of these completion seraphim. All right. One more paragraph. Rodney, would you take that last paragraph?
Yes. Many fascinating avenues of ministry are open to the completion seraphim. But just as they are craved assignment as destiny guardians in the pre-paradise days, in the post-paradise experience, they most desire to serve as bestowal attendants of the incarnated paradise sons. They are still supremely devoted to that universal plan of starting the mortal creatures of the evolutionary worlds out upon the long and enticing journey towards the paradise goal of divinity and eternity. Throughout the whole mortal adventure of finding God and of the achieving divine perfection, these spirit ministers of seraphic completion, together with the faithful ministering spirits of time, are always and forever your true friends and unfailing helpers.
Presented by Melchizedek, acting by request of the chief, a seraphic host of Nebadon. Okay, so these destiny guardians really desire to come back as bestowal attendants to incarnated paradise sons. So they want to accompany someone on a bestowal experience so they can gain the bestowal experience with them, right? So everybody has someplace they want to be, right?
Yeah.
To improve themselves. That's what it boils down to. So that pretty much finishes everything about seraphim, and then we're going to move on to paper 40, the ascending sons of God. Does anybody have any questions about any
Yes.
of the seraphim? Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Yes, so you could say that our material son and daughter didn't have thought adjusters while on this planet.
Yeah, they were assigned the material sons and daughters. The Adams and
Or
Eves
Adam and
are
Eves.
assigned. Yeah, are assigned thought adjusters as soon as they become human.
Oh,
They
so they
do.
had thought adjusters when they were.
Yeah, the Adams
Okay.
and Eves do. The material sons and daughters do. They're assigned to them immediately when they get here. But the Caligastia 100 was not. Okay?
Okay.
Because they already had previous association with a thought adjuster, and they wouldn't issue them a new thought adjuster because they already had one waiting back on the system capital, right?
Why weren't they assimilated with their thought adjuster? Why didn't they fuse?
They
Did
weren't
the thought
capable.
adjuster not like them or something?
No, for some reason they weren't capable of fusing with their adjusters. That happens sometimes. You know, normally if they can't eventually fuse with their adjusters, Gary, then they're given a fragment of the sun or a fragment of the spirit, right? That's how they become sun fused or spirit fused, one of the two. But for some reason, these beings had not fused with their thought adjusters when they were on Jerusalem. And what happens is Jerusalem sent out a notice that they were requesting 100 beings to send to a new planet to help out a planetary prince get started, right? So they volunteered. All these people, all these Caligastia 100s that came to this planet were volunteers, because they wanted the adventure of it. They had already been mortals, but they volunteered to go back and become mortal again so that they could gain more experience. Make sense? Why they want to do that, I'm not sure, but they did.
Backfired on too.
Backfired on them. Just like, let me give you another example of that. The material sons and daughters, the Adam and Eves, don't all become Adams and Eves, do they? Material sons and daughters, they volunteer as Adam and Eve, just like the Caligastia 100 volunteered to become mortal to assist a planetary prince.
Well, wasn't Adam and Eve serving as lab techs in some function in heaven?
Yeah, well, yeah, both of them had specific jobs. And when the call came out for more new Adam and Eves, they both applied. And so they were chosen. And now that's not where it starts. When they're chosen, they have to go through extensive training, 150,000, 200,000 years to prepare them to be Adam and Eves. So it's not like they volunteer, they get on a transport and they're gone. It's a long, drawn out process. They're prepared for the job they're supposed to do. They're quite aware of what they're up against. And so the fact that they both defaulted is especially terrible because they'd already been warned against all the things they defaulted against. They were quite aware of it. So it's a disappointment. What disappoints me in some ways is the fact that Adam and Eve ended up on the 24 counselors on Jerusalem. But Jesus is in charge, not me, right? He chose to forgive them or their default, rehabilitate them, and so then they went on to the 24. So apparently he felt like they were ready for the 24. It's hard for us to understand that because we see the result of the rebellion on this planet, right? And the default. Makes sense?
You know what? They may be better qualified now that they screwed up. The simple reason they lost a lot of their children.
That's right.
And
They
I'm
did.
assuming they would feel the same as if we would.
Yeah, they would.
And
Gary.
so
I
they
mean,
could, well, not going to do that again.
they learned certain lessons that only they could learn by what? Messing up. And that's how we learn our lessons is by messing up, don't we? Right? Many times. So
You didn't know it, but I'm a genius at that.
there you go.
I think we all are.
I think we all are. All right, so next time we'll go to paper 40, the Ascending Sons of God, and we'll do that one. And let's cut it off for tonight because we got live people on Facebook right now listening, wanting to listen to it again. So let's say a short prayer and we'll close for tonight. Diane, would you close us in prayer?
Dearest Father, Mother God, we just thank you so much for this wonderful book you provided for us to prepare us for our destiny. We're so grateful to know the path and to prepare ourselves for the wonderful, wonderful journey you have ahead of us. And we are so grateful for this book and learning so much in preparation. It is in your name, Jesus Christ, Michael of Nebadon, that we pray and give thanks. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And thank you all at home for joining us. Please come see us again. Let me stop the Facebook. Stop the recording here.